Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 804, Richard and Gary here. We've got lots to talk about. We're talking about the new update to Windows 10 that was launched this week. We'll be talking about the end of the road for Windows 10X. We're quite sad about that. We'll be talking computer museums and finally being able to get out to them. Lots more stuff, so let's get straight to Richard and Gary. Richard, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay, good. And your camera on as well, so we can see you tonight.
Yes, that's because I've had an upgrade.
Oh, have you? What, you personally?
Well, yeah, no, me personally, no, but yes. I'm now rocking the world of Windows 10 21H1.
Fantastic. Yeah, Windows 21H1 out today. If you're a seeker.
Yes, I mean, it didn't turn up on my Windows update one. I did check for updates, but I did use the link to. I mean, I know I should have waited. This is my production mission. I should have waited until it appeared in Windows Update because that's always the time when it's ready. I couldn't wait. I had to go and find the link and download it via the Windows 10 Update tool, and that pulled it down quite happily. It took about an hour and a half, but that's because I had to do a full-on download. But yeah, here it is.
Yeah, I've got it on. Yeah, and I've had it on this release preview for about 2 months. Well, when February, wasn't it? I think it went to release preview.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a while for sure.
Are you enjoying the new features?
Oh, yeah. I really am enjoying the new features. I spent at least 15 seconds enjoying the new features and then moved on. Yeah,
so we have Application Guard update. I can do these off the top of my head without looking. Windows Hello multi-camera support.
Yep.
There was 3 things, wasn't there? What was the third thing?
Wasn't there a tweak to speed things up around Office or something, or was that to do with Application Guard?
That was Application Guard. There was three bullet points because I did the blog post on it. I had to go and check my notes now.
Oh no, it's the Windows Management Instrumentation Group Policy Service, which is, excellent. But in a way, I think that does kind of point to what Windows is now really being pointed at, which is definitely the enterprise.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it all works. And from an enterprise point of view, this is exactly what you want. It just works, and you just leave it running, and that's great. The less hassle we get on a day-to-day basis, the better. It's just for us in consumers, it's slightly less exciting.
Yes, I mean, I do hope so, because obviously, there's not been a particularly great track record with patches and updates of late. But there's so little different in this, unless there's tons of stuff under the hood which they've not talked about yet. There's just not a lot between this and 20H2. No,
there's definitely not. Now, as we mentioned before, what we're hoping is that all these rumored updates, and we keep seeing screenshots, leaked screenshots and things, are all coming in this mystical update called Sun Valley, which Microsoft haven't confirmed. But hopefully we'll find out a bit more about that at the build event. But looking through the build schedule, there didn't seem to be anything in particular on there.
No, not at all. And to be honest, I don't think there's going to be, because I think it's just it will be a different user interface paradigm. They're going to bring fluid stuff to more stuff. And really all they're doing, if I understand what's been leaked so far, and as I don't really like talking about leaks without confirmation, but from what I've seen from the screenshots and the leaks, it just looks like a using up of the user interface. So the start menu is going to be, nicer, which, let's face it, it's been pretty much awful since Windows 7, and just the general appearance and polish of the system is going to be improved, which is no bad thing. But I can imagine that's not particularly architectural.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're a developer, then it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So they might not even need to do it. So they might not even mention it at all at build. Then
I suspect that there'll be tracks on things like user interface design guidelines and things, and how to make apps more fluid-like, perhaps. But even then, I hope Gary comes along shortly, because I'm not sure how many developers are actually writing brand new Windows desktop apps anymore. Really, it's all services or web apps, isn't it? Really, these days. I mean, would you create a brand new app with any ones? I can think that of. In fact, Photoshop on ARM maybe, but that's still just a port. So I can't think on the top of my head any brand new Windows desktop apps apart from the likes of Office, really.
Yeah, and any consumer type services are more or less web based with a bit of wrap around them, perhaps to give them a bit of a native feel. I suppose you've still got your Photoshops and.
I'm sorry, you used the C word in relation to Windows there, consumer.
Yeah, exactly. But there aren't really a huge amount of new applications coming. So yeah, I guess that the big native applications like your video editors, your audio editors, the user interface really doesn't make much difference, especially when you get to the heavyweight, like I use Cubase, the music software, and it doesn't follow any Windows guidelines whatsoever.
Exactly, yeah. I find that the most audio, pro level audio tools have their own particular way of doing things anyway. As you say, there's no real way of following the guidelines. It'll be in the Office apps, and maybe even in Studio, perhaps.
Yeah. Just looking at those sessions that there were a couple of developing Windows sort of applications, but everything did seem very service based and Azure and everything else.
Exactly, yes, and that's clearly where I think we've been saying it for a while. Microsoft wants to go towards, they don't mind what device you're using as long as you're using their services in the background.
Now, one service, one operating system you definitely won't be using is Windows 10X.
Yeah, so this is a confirmation that the leaks were indeed correct, and the mutterings of its demise. And I suspect it's been dead for quite a while, really. Microsoft came out in public and said it's dead. Well, they didn't say it's dead. They said something along the lines of the technologies will be used in Windows 10. So you can see some of the containery things with that Windows Defender stuff. Yay! But I mean, that's really sad, isn't it? I'm generally quite sad about it, because it makes perfect sense from a commercial standpoint. They've seen how well Windows 10 is selling. It's doing really well. It sells into enterprise. I think someone looked and said, well, what is the point of 10X? Are we going to try and get into this consumer space? It's owned by iPads and Chromebooks and things. Do we really want to bother trying to crack this market when really and truly enterprises are still buying Windows machines, and Azure is growing at the rate it is? I think Windows 10X founded on that.
Yeah. The quote it said, following a year-long exploration and engaging in conversations with customers, we realized that technology of Windows 10X could be more useful in a more way and serve more customers than we originally imagined. So it's better. We concluded that Windows 10X technology shouldn't be confined to a subset of customers.
Oh dear, it's such a spin. Really and truly, I did read the blog post, and it set my teeth on it. I think the paragraph that got me was, this shift in thinking is an incredible example of the company's value of a growth mindset at work and exemplifies our customer-first focus. What a load of expletive deleted, really and truly. I
think, first of all, like you, it's a real shame, and having spent quite a bit of time with it, especially getting it to run on this Lumia 950 XL, which is now going to go on my shelf of crushed dreams. Over there with my Zune and some band and my Veil Windows Home server. But I think the biggest disappointment, first of all, like you, I can understand exactly why they've done it, and the single issue is the backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
Without that, it would be dead. And I know that they were talking about making it, for education and just targeting Chromebooks or whatever. But as soon as you've got an operating system called Windows and you can't run Windows applications on it, it's in trouble. Going back to Windows RT days, that we knew that was a problem then.
Yep.
So yeah, I can understand why that's the case. As soon as they got rid of that backwards compatibility layer and couldn't get that to work effectively, then I suppose that's what killed it. Before that, had they got that working successfully, I would imagine they would carried on with it, because consumers don't care what they're running as long as they just run it just runs what they need.
I think so, but the problem is they're always going to be between a rock and a hard place with that Win32 compatibility, because you can't you can't run Win32 apps at a decent performance on a Chromebook priced device. You simply can't do it. I think that's what they've hit time and time again. It's like, so the solution is, well, we'll ditch the backwards compatibility, we'll run it in containers. But whatever they've tried, they simply can't. I think they can't match the likes of Chromebooks and iPads in terms of price for what you get. I mean, if you get an iPad, I'm no big fan of Apple, as you know, but you get an iPad, it just works at the box, and the apps are swift and lovely and fluid. But I've used a Surface Go, and it's the cheapest version, and it's just not very good in comparison. It's not a great Windows experience. I think the problem with Windows 10X is they had no way of targeting that kind of very lightweight market with full-blown Win32. So I guess, it is a real shame, though. I think it's a real shame, and I do hope we do see particularly some more of the container stuff appear in Windows 10, because that I thought was very exciting.
Yeah, and just the things like the quick updates and the fast reboots and the state separation, all those that you need from modern operating system. But they were also, it's undoing because of compatibility. Now I hope that they can bring some of that state separation into Windows, so you get a device like a Surface Go and it is pre-separated out, and if you do a reset, it's always back to its pristine state, and updates just take one reboot and you're done, and all that kind of stuff. But it is a shame that they can't find a way of going forward with that. And I suppose it's the legacy of having literally in both sense of the terms, isn't it, of having a massive user base, moving people from of unsuccessful operating system would have been easy, or creating a new market or whatever, but to get existing users moved on, to get existing Windows market base onto new devices and things, it's so much what's the word I'm looking for, but not lethargic, but it's so slow to move, isn't it? A massive user base. It's not inertia.
Yes, there's a lot of inertia, and of course, Microsoft has always been very, very proud, and rightly so, of how backwards compatible Windows is. You can run some stuff on Windows 10 that you really and truly you shouldn't be able to these days. Old 32-bit apps from decades ago still work. Whereas if you look at, say, the Apple approach, after a few years, that's it. You're out of luck. Your app's going to stop working. And I think Microsoft users simply aren't willing to accept that, whereas Apple users do seem to accept it and even apologise on behalf of for the company. They've just lost access to their favourite app because Apple moved the goalposts, which they do on a regular basis, but that seems to be acceptable. Yet Microsoft, people like me will write horrible things about them if they do that.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm sure there's lots of them scratching their heads and working out how they can.
I think
do that.
Yeah, I think possibly maybe we'll see more about Windows Virtual Desktop on Azure, perhaps. That gives them a way of trying to running things on lighter weight hardware and patching it and getting it up to date. I'm just not sure what you can do with the current Windows enormous lump of code that it is at the moment. I think 10X was their latest attempt to simply, fix it by starting from scratch and saying, okay, how can we make this thing efficient? Because there's so much legacy code in Windows 10 now. It's absurd how much legacy code is in there. I just don't know how they can, without a full-on rewrite, how they can ever hope to get it onto, get into the kind of places that they'd like to get it. But yeah, it is a shame. It's a real shame that 10X is gone. But yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'm sure that I suppose the simple things like you mentioned, the enterprise is still buying Windows 10. This will have no impact on that whatsoever. And as from my a day job, I wouldn't be looking at 10X either to any of the business application, any of our devices at work, because you might say, when you give it to someone, say, yeah, it all runs all the web apps, and they say, yeah, that's fine, I only use web app, and then 20 minutes later say, right, I've got to install this application from 2004, and okay, give me the device back. So I'm quite glad, from a business point of view. I just like the shiny new technology, and I hope that they can learn some lessons from this and bring that into Windows 10. And they say they're going to do that, but they might user interface stuff, which is the stuff we'll see and go, "Oh, this is nice," and that's probably easy to do, because but the proper the state separation, the update mechanism, all that I guess is harder to do. But I suppose that's what they just got to do, and maybe they'll have another project to another next generation of Windows that will go on for a few years now under the radar, and then they'll pop back with another. Here we go. We're Windows 10 SX or GL for you Ford 1970s Ford owners, a GLX version of Windows.
I suspect they'll call it Microsoft Azure for desktops. 365.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a shame, and
so what's actually left now? So what's left now out of Panos Panay's sort of big announcement he did? Because we've obviously Neo disappeared. The Duo is not looking particularly healthy right now, if I'm honest. I mean, I know you've got one.
Mine's working well.
Well done, but I mean, there's not a lot about the Duo in the build sessions. There's I think one session on building dual screen Android devices, not much more than that.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
And of course, if there's not a hardware refresh this year, then it's got to come pretty soon, because we're approaching the first anniversary of the Duo. Because it came out was it August? It came out because it came out early, as I recall.
September. Yeah, I think it was September when it shipped.
Yeah, so we'd expect that to be
November. Yeah.
So it's got to be a refresh fairly soon, because when you're in the mobile phone market, you can't leave things more than a year before you do a refresh. So that's not looking good right now. And 10X is now gone. I mean, what's left?
Yeah, and I suppose the Neo still technically could arrive, but it just the dual screen thing was Windows 10X was what it was. Yeah, it run Windows 10.
That well-known dual screen operating system.
Yeah, and they could bring those dual screen functionality. I mean, it's not that complicated. That screen switch shifting. In fact, Windows 10X, I thought the windowing was back to Windows RT kind of level of.
Very fortunate, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to mark it up as a loss for Panos. Or maybe Panay another day.
How many of these have you got?
More dumped.
Oh.
Windows 10X Home Server Edition. I'll stop now.
Well, you know the really cool Windows Home Server was the Veil, codename Veil, and it was Veil was the code name for the Win32 legacy emulation in Windows 10X.
Oh no! Doomed from day one.
Yeah. So it was doomed from day one.
That was going to be cool, wasn't it? That shelf version of Windows Home Server was pretty much the dream media settings, as I recall, in terms of shared tuners and recording on the server and all that stuff. It was a dream system. It was
what everybody had asked for, and I was under NDA, and people were asking for it, and I want to say it's coming. It's really exciting. I've tried it. It works. But it never did. Well, it did work, but never came.
It's now gone to that Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark style warehouse where it's been wheeled down on a squeaky thing to create Zunes and Windows, Microsoft Bob, Media Center, Home Server, they're all in there. Band, Groove.
Yeah.
Seriously, how many more are there? I mean, we laugh about Google killing things off and what have you, but Microsoft, I mean, they raise expectations so high, and then they just it comes crashing down. Oh well.
I suppose you've got to credit them for having for actually posting the thing saying that's what they're doing. They could have quite easily left it hanging in the air indefinitely.
I don't credit them for that. I think they should be honest and said we couldn't make it work. Instead, they put this mealy-mouthed thing out there saying, "Oh well, we've talked to our customers." What? Really? You know what? I think maybe what's happened is you've talked to your accountants and said, "This is selling really well right now. Let's not mess with it." Well, why are you doing that? This thing that's selling well is withering. This thing you're playing with, nobody wants it. Do this. So,
yeah, I think so. Yeah. I wonder when Panos took over. Was that before this? Did Panos take over the Windows division or whatever his role is before these announcements or afterwards?
He took it over. I think he took it over before, but I think 10X was rolling before Panos took over because he came from the Surface team, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he knew about Neo and Duo, obviously, and the plans to do removal drives and things and service laptops. So, but I think 10X predates him, but it's taking a long time for them to kill it because he's obviously been in charge for over a year now, hasn't he? Well, over 2 years. I keep forgetting the last year happened. So
yeah, I think that's what I mean. Yeah, so I wonder whether he's just got piled on his desk a list of priorities, and with the change of focus starting last year with when they said they were going focusing back on Windows, when suddenly people started buying PCs again and laptops, exactly. And this make, like you said, this operating system makes you this much. And what you're talking about was going to make you this much. Can you please focus on the thing that's going to make you this much?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do see the hand of Satcher in this as well, because some of the language used, like growth mindset and whatever, there are buzzwords that you can if you were to watch a Satcher and then a kid and play the buzzword drinking game, you would be drunk. If you get growth mindset on your card, you would out of your tree. You would be. So. I mean, and of course, Satcher, he's not been slow in killing things off. He'll look at things and go, "This is going to work," and just take the hard choice. And in this case, I think because Windows is very much a sacred cow at Microsoft. It's been the thing that made the company all its money. So I think taking on the Windows team and saying, "No, you're not going to do. You failed again. RT didn't work. This isn't working. Stop." So I do kind of wonder if it's come from higher up.
Yeah. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening. I've the joy of waiting in the Teams lobby for an hour. But,
with no one there with you.
No one there with me.
Good old Teams. We were just lamenting the loss of another operating system or another service from Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft pans another OS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much Pane, but can, hey?
Oh, you've got a lot of these in tonight. It's going to take me ages to edit them all out.
I've got so many to get through.
So the Lumia 950 XL running Windows 10X goes on the shelf with my Zune, my media server, my media center, my band.
The shelf of broken dreams.
Yes.
I think that's actually the problem. He was running it. That was obviously what the problem was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was actually using it as well.
I
thought it was very usable. That's what the sad thing was. But it's like anything. It's just there was just that gap. And that Apple backwards compatibility is never going to be solved.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So.
On the plus side, I can see the 21-inch one is working perfectly at the moment. It's hence my lovely face on the on the stream. The camera's working now.
Hey, excellent.
Yeah, and I think it should be okay, really, considering it was sort of finished in February or whatever.
I think it was finished last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah,
so I'm hoping this is a quiet now before the storm of updates and new UI things that we see coming from Microsoft over the next few months, leading up to 21H2 being a bigger update.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. As you say, I think visually for us it'll be a bigger update. But as I said, they have split the start menu out of the core shelf, so they'll be able to update that relatively easily and make it look quite different without causing any problems to the underlying code. I guess one thing I have moaned a lot about, the fact it's such a big lump of legacy code, but at least it's relatively stable now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless they break it with patches.
Now, Gary, one thing we were talking about before, which I want to get your thoughts on, is the builds. Some of the sessions for build were announced. I think all the sessions for build were announced, and we were wondering how much Windows 10 is in there. It doesn't seem to be a huge amount.
Not that I could see a lot of, no. And obviously some of the Project Reunion stuff will be in there and things around us. But actual Windows 10 as such, I don't see much at all. I mean, I think I had a fairly good clue 10X was on the way out when there wasn't a single session on anything related in there. But yeah, there's some very interesting sessions there. I think there's a lot of stuff which will be interesting going forward, and will probably have an influence on Windows 10 and our world. But yeah, nothing specifically.
Yeah, and we say even they might not even mention the future updates to Windows 10, the UI overhaul, because it doesn't really affect developers that much, because it's just a UI change, not a core operating system change.
Yeah, though sometimes UX changes do affect developers because you really want your apps to match them.
Right.
You don't want to staying out like a sore thumb that they sometimes can do. I remember when all the icons changed between 95 and 98, or 98 and ME, or etc. etc. Our older apps suddenly looked very old.
Yeah, we went from square flat things, didn't we, to every square rectangle things with drop shadows, to things being flat with mouse overs, to things with curved, and then back to square again. I think we're back on curved at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
It's interesting how our UI, and I suppose it's the same with anything, fashion and technology objects and everything, how there's a steady progression, how things change and look dated when you look back at operating systems and you see how dated they look. But I remember seeing Windows 95 with the IE add-in, what was it called, the Active Desktop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it looked so modern and new, and now when you look back at it, it looks hilariously unsophisticated.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the case again. I think we're going to have a modern look. So,
yeah. But you get the same thing with anything technology, like your phones or anything, don't you? I've even been going back through some of my retro music equipment, and you can see the things that looked modern when they first came out, and now incredibly dated, and then they get replaced by something else, which them, and it just shifts, and it's like car designs, I guess, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I always find that interesting. I remember, this is the thing from the future, and then you look back at it in 10 years' time, and think, gosh, that's so dated. But that's that's the way. I don't know why that is, but I guess it's a way of selling things. Well, we'll see what builds. What, a couple of weeks in next week or the week after?
Week after, I think. Yeah, it's end of May, isn't it? So maybe actually next week. Yeah. Anyway, whatever it is, there's a lot of good sessions on there which will appeal to developers, but I don't think there's much which will appeal to consumer users.
We did get a build out last week, sneaked in on Friday evening.
Yes.
I didn't think they were going to get one out last week, but they did. There wasn't.
They were busy because they were taking me out today. So.
But say again.
I guess they were rushing because they knew what was coming today.
Yeah, that's true. So, just one change, major thing, legacy ICC color management for the HDR applications. I think if you run a thing like a Photoshop application or something like that, I guess that's could be important to you. But for most people that don't know what that is, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter because it's not that critical. I did notice though that the known issues list is down to 4 now.
Yep.
And they've finally got rid of my old favorite one, the build may hang for an extended period of time during the installation. That's been on the release notes for 18 months now.
Wow, that's impressive.
I've never seen it, so I guess they fixed it. They must have fixed it, but eventually they took it off. So they've trimmed those release notes right down now. So maybe now that 21H1 is out, maybe it's time for us to go back onto the preview builds instead. The what are we on now? The CO, isn't it? We'll go back to the RS branch, and we might see something new and interesting coming from these builds. But my build video was out last week, but I had to do it when I got up on Saturday morning because I missed the I'm not really into doing build videos on a Friday night with along with a bottle of wine. It's not a good idea. Right, what else have we got? Oh yeah, I did wanted to check, Richard. You last week we did say we check in on your VR headset AirLink.
Yep.
And you still got that working?
Yeah, I did. But what I didn't realise was you had to plug it in first to make the AirLink work. And that sounds a bit weird, but it had to be connected first, so it registered itself, and then after that, I have to say I'm relatively surprised how smooth it is. It works very well. The only problem I have got, which is my own stupid fault, is I upgraded the graphics card on my PC because it's a low profile PC. It's actually the one I used to run Media Center on back in the day. That's quite low profile. So I could only fit in an NVIDIA 1650. So that was an upgrade from my 1050. The problem is that's not got enough guts to power the Quest 2. And so every time I use it, a little message box comes up saying, "This might not work. Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. Carry on." So I need to probably upgrade my PC, but I have to say the AirLink thing works incredibly well because all the old Rift and Rift S things that I had come up fine, and then work on the Quest 2, except completely wirelessly.
Brilliant.
So very impressed with that, and of course the games I have got really benefit from the high resolution Quest 2 screens. They're really good on them. So very, very good, very good indeed. I think I'd struggle to go back to having a wire now, which obviously you've got to have if you want to use some of these more exciting headsets that are coming out.
Yeah, what was that one that there was the Vive 5K?
It was was it the Vive Pro? Vive Pro 3 or Pro 2? Sorry, I can't remember.
I think it is.
Yeah, which has got, I think it's like a massive 5K combined screen, which is colossal, really. But obviously you've got to run it off a PC, which means you've got to have a cable. Which now I've got used to doing sort of PC, because obviously the Quest 2, much like the Vive Focus, would run self-contained in the headset. I've got very used to not having the cable, so that's now playing the more complex PC games that would need the extra horsepower of the PC with the cable. The idea of going back to being connected again is not good. Hence, I was quite surprised when we saw the PS5 VR. It looks like that's going to be cable too, although only one cable this time.
Yeah, just I'll have to try the new PS VR. Like I mentioned in the past, the original one just knocked me sick as soon as I used it. I don't know why.
Well, I think with the new one they've massively upgraded the visuals.
Yeah.
The other problem with the old PS, it was traditionally, I think it was the worst resolution of what I would call the current crop of headsets. So I think that was definitely causing problems. And of course, the refresh rate wasn't anywhere near as good either. Whereas I think the one for the PS5 is considerably better. Really a really good bit of kit now. If, of course, you can get hold of a PS5 and the PSVR. I think at some point next year. Oh, sorry, just back on that Vive. I think the 5K. I was thinking about the Vive Focus, the Vive Focus 3, which is what the 5K LCC,
right.
And that is also a hands-free, which is a wireless device. It's got the I think the same Snapdragon in it as the Quest 2. Whereas, of course, the 5K Vive Pro is the one that's connected. So, sorry, ignore me.
I haven't done much with my headset for a while, really. I just it's one of those things I go through phases. I think I play with it all the time and then don't use it for a bit, and then I'll come back to it at some point. But I only really ever used it that much for Project Cars anyway. That's what really sort of made me use it. The rest of the games I didn't really get that much into, but apart from that 80 retro style maze one, which I forgot what it was called now, but I did enjoy that one. But and my son likes his Quest 2. He uses that a lot.
I find I do as well. And there is there's a syndrome called VR time, I think, where you lose track of time really easily when you're in a VR headset, because you can't see your own body so much, so you tend to get confused as to how long you spent in there. Because I regularly now play with the Quest 2, and I'll run the battery down now, because I'll go for 2-3 hours and it's just gone in a blink of an eye. I think, oh, crikey, battery's run down. How can this be? Oh, it's dark outside. Yeah. So I mean, I'm still very excited about the VR world. I just think it's a shame that the VR companies weren't able to capitalize as much as they might have done on the fact everyone was having to work from home for last year.
Yeah, and there wasn't really any, as much as that. I really like the virtual desktop type things that I could do with Windows Mixed Reality with the applications. Not being able to see your hands and type on the keyboard, it never quite gelled enough to use it productive. It had the tantalizing prospect of being almost good enough to revolutionize how you would work, and you would work from home with your VR on, and you'd be in your Skyloft, and you'd have all your, it was almost there, but it just was never quite practical enough. So when you need to really do some work, you have to take it off, and that's what kind of lets it down. It's almost there, but it wasn't quite enough. So I guess as the technology improves and the tracking improves, so that enough that virtually you can type on a real keyboard and still be able to work with a keyboard and mouse or however, but still be in this world, then I guess that'll be there. But almost like you think kind of the Windows might have gone now, because once people go back to the office, once you're in a shared environment, you don't want to have a occluded headset on. That's maybe where the AR stuff will be more useful. But yeah, you don't want to be sat in a real office with people around and an enclosed VR headset on, because you just can't see what's going on. It's no good.
I'm pretty antisocial. I can handle that, definitely.
Yeah, well, you don't know what people are doing in front of your face, then, Richard.
Oh, believe me.
You can take a guess, but
very good guess. I'll tell somebody in front of my face. Yes, definitely.
It was never quite. It was my problem. It was so close to being amazingly brilliant to work in, but you never quite got it. And the fact you got the desktop apps working in it was brilliant, but you couldn't quite use them. That was a shame.
Well, exactly the same. Although I have to say, I mean, certainly the bump in resolution that I've experienced in headsets has made me think again about running desktop top-ups in, because I was playing one game that was a simulation of being inside a Mercury, the old Mercury capsule, and there, running it through the Quest 2, it really did benefit from that additional resolution. I was able to sort of make out all the writing on the dials and things, which before was a little bit blurry. So I thought, 5K actually might work. But as you say, you wouldn't want to wear it in the office.
No. Maybe with the AR stuff, but again, that seems to have gone away from consumers as well at the moment.
Well, you say that, although I mean, Alex Kipman was talking to I think the Wall Street Journal recently. I think he did say they were looking at the consumer journey, was what he said. So yeah, I wouldn't say never, but I think certainly with what's happened to Windows 10X, it's unlikely. But
yeah,
you never know, because. It's the problem with this kind of tech is you do need to have some form of consumer play to get people used to it. Otherwise it's going to always be a niche thing in training courses, whatever else. I know some people have had great success involving VR and AI headsets out for training and simulation. But I think you've got to really, if you want it to take off, it needs to be consumer. But then don't really see an Xbox branded version appearing anytime soon. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, talking of Xbox, my son's still really frustrated. He still can't get an Xbox X.
Really?
X. He's still trying to get one. I now and again I see people tweeting that Argos have got them or Sainsbury's has got them. So I go on and look, and by the time I get there, none in stock.
All gone. Yeah. All gone. Bought by scalpers on eBay for immense amounts of money. It's bad.
Yeah, it's a shame, because he really wants one. He's had the money since like last year waiting.
Yeah, we'll keep saving. He'll be able to get one and other stuff, although not a VR headset.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I know a guy who ended up actually buying an Xbox One because he couldn't get an S or an X, and he got so annoyed he just bought a one in the end.
Yeah.
Which I thought, it's a shame, but I understand the frustration.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. Right. What else we got? So that was all the the Windows News, the VR. I have got some stuff I've got to test out actually. Do you have a problem where you don't have enough USB ports?
That looks good, like it might be a few.
Yeah,
it looks quite large though.
Yeah, 10. There's 10 on there. It's a powered USB hub. I'm going to test it this week because one of the problems I have with my laptop renewal and music stuff applications is each of the new synths has its own USB. The older synths are on MIDI, which is a USB adapter. You've got the audio interface. You've got the key lock for the Cubase software because the Cubase think it's 1980 something, and you've still got to have key locks on there. I don't know why I don't know how Microsoft and everybody else can manage to do it all through user accounts, and and Netflix can do user tracking yet. For me to run the music software, I have to have this stupid dongle in the thing, which it doesn't always recognize, and they got rebooted anyway. So all this stuff means running out of ports, and I've got USB extensions hanging off USB extensions, and it makes it all a bit flaky. So I'm going to try one of these here. This is a powered one as well, because part of when you get things like hard drives, external hard drives, you can take quite a bit of power. So I'm going to try this. It's aluminium as well, so my idea is to get rid of the USB hubs that I've got over here and the extension cable which goes over there, and one set of USB things on there, because I've bought a new MIDI cable as well, a USB to MIDI cable, because I've got a new device coming.
Oh, go on.
A 1986 TR-505 Roland drum machine.
Oh, magnificent. For that full-on Phil Collins sound.
Yeah. It's very, very, very 80s sounding. It needs a bit of work to clean up, so I've got it off someone who was getting rid of some stuff, and it needs a bit of restoration TLC. So I'll be doing that.
That sounds fabulous.
Yes, so I should be having that. So find somewhere to put it over there.
Well, speaking of old stuff, I don't know if I mentioned did I mention this last week. But this weekend, the UK Centre for Computing History is reopening.
Oh, fantastic!
So this is a place in Cambridge, and they're reopening on Saturday. Although if you want to go, you have to pre-book. But I recommend it if you do want to go. It's brilliant. It's got all the retro machines, and apparently you can still touch them. They got like wiped down keyboard covers and things. I think the only thing that's not going to be there is a virtual reality stuff, because obviously the headset gets quite. You wouldn't want to put the headset on right now, would you? Let's face it. No. Let's be honest. So that's not going to be there, but I think they've replaced it with some motion stuff instead. But yeah, so it's all still there.
Oh, brilliant.
And you can wander around and use the gear, although you are encouraged not to lean over people's shoulders as they're playing Jet Set Willie or Manic Miner on the Spectrums. But yeah, so bit of good news there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm even better news is we're going.
We are going on July the 3rd.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be
there. They have confirmed, and then July the 4th, we're doing the National Museum of Computing at Bletchley Park.
Fantastic! I can't wait for that. I'm so looking forward to that.
It's going to be great.
I'm going to be charging up all my devices to take as much video and photos and audio and everything. And
bring your checkbook, because I've got a feeling I'm going to probably have to go by the Raspberry Pi store in Cambridge as well.
Excellent, fantastic.
They take checks.
I mean, the last time I was there, I didn't plan to buy anything. I came out about £200 worth of stuff in the bag. How did this happen? Why have I bought more Raspberry Pis? I didn't need more. Oh, and a camera. What did I buy this stuff for? I couldn't help myself. And now, of course, it's now in my drawers. It's all been fired up. It's great fun. So, yeah, it's got tons of. The Pi store has got tons of stuff, and of course, as I say, the Centre for Computing History, which is reopening this weekend. So I'd encourage everyone to get on the website and book tickets if they fancy a jaunt there. It's also it's just a great place.
I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been to the one in Cambridge. I've been to the other one.
I think they've got the Prototype Spectrum on display there as well. I think.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to try and get as much content as we can for that, and I'll bring my audio recorder and we can do a roundtable or podcast at some point, or video, or however we decide to do it, because always done one almost every year for how long, Gary, have we tried? We've done an in-person one for 15 years or something
15
like
years,
that.
Yeah, 15 years or so, yeah.
Yeah, and
I hope we do one at the National Museum of Computing in Bletchley Park. I would think we could probably sort a thing out there. We'll do one there,
Sounds good.
definitely.
I'll because it's not no flights involved. It means I can just load my car up with as many bits of kit as we need, audio recorders, video recorders, just to cover off any eventuality. And we'll go. So I'm so looking forward to getting out and seeing this kit. The place at Bletchley was fantastic when we went there, and we saw some fantastic stuff there. Those big spinning hard drives always stick in my mind, the giant rotating ones.
Unix drives.
And of course, at the weekend is when they tend to fire up some of the old mainframes and things. So because the edit machines and things, plotters, they all still work, and they have volunteers there who know ALGOL 60 and will quite cheerfully say, right, let's run the program, and then it's just brilliant. That's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Proper old metal.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing it.
Yes. Sorry, Gary. I know it's quite a new language for you, so I apologise.
Yeah, so it's going to be good. That so we'll when we get a bit more closer to the time, we can maybe we'll see if anybody else is in the area wants to pop and say hello. We'll have some more details. But
I'm banging on about these museums for the next few weeks, so probably just best mute me after the 55-minute mark, because I'm so happy that they're all reopening. I really am.
So am I. It's great to see, and they need the money, so get over there and help them all out.
They do. I mean, they're run by volunteers, and they've had a terrible year, because obviously they've been shut up. And it's just saying they need the money, and they're just such great places, because it's just so you go to somewhere like the Science Museum in London, which is nice. It's a good place, but everything's hidden behind perspex. You can't touch anything. Whereas these places, you can actually see these machines operating. I think it's just brilliant, and your volunteers who know all about them, and it's just anyway, I'm a big fan, as you can tell.
and it's our history as well, isn't that's the thing? It's our industry, our history. We, especially if you're of our generation as well, you live through that of not having a computer to having a computer, and anybody younger won't realize what that's like. Just where the technology's been there forever. But for us, it wasn't, and then it was a new thing, and your parents and your grandparents didn't understand it, but you did, and it was really nice to be like cutting edge of stuff. It was, and so I think going back looking at some of that stuff is fantastic, and I think I might see if they want a collection of retro PC games, box games. I think I should probably get rid of some of that.
I can guarantee the sense of community you will definitely like those. But you should bring the boys along, because they're. And certainly the National Museum of Bletchley Park, they are very good at outreach to the younger generation as well, with Raspberry Pi stuff. And their recent retro just was brilliant. Trying to get people engaged in writing or playing the old games, or understanding how the stuff work in a way that's engaging. So anyway, I've gone on long enough about that. So let's move along.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about more of that when we get nearer the time. Right, what else did we have for this week?
Well, I got some news from GoodServe, from our friend Sam. Well, actually, not direct from Sam, but from them from last week. He was talking about new upcoming forecourts, the actual GoodServe ones, not the replacement of the Ecotricity, and they've got Norwich has started construction, and they've also just got planning permission for 2 more. One in Gatwick Airport, which could be quite useful. Big hub there, and also one just up near Gateshead, which they've got the planning permission for. So those 2 will be built. I know the aim still is to build them all by the end of this year, which is pretty astounding. And the Norwich one sounds really interesting. And it was interesting talking. We had some on our iPace owner, iPace driver show this week as well, and he was mentioning the fact that the Norwich one is 2 stories. So the charging is actually underneath the forecourt pit services, so they can actually build this really massive number of chargers in quite a small footprint, so that it gives them a lot more flexibility in terms of where they're going to put these things. So but the expansion looks amazing. And I was just looking at the potential map so someone's actually produced a map of where these things might be likely to be, but looking at planning permission, and some of the places they've got them are going to be really good. One quite near Brighton apparently. So that next car in 5 years time, whatever, you should be able to get everywhere. But I mean, it's really good to see, because this has obviously been the one thing which held back a lot of people who are a bit lazier than me and don't want to plan their journeys up a bit. But it's definitely very true. And I have to say, I did actually get an email after the show from I must get his name right, because it's from Fazine, I think. I hope I pronounced that right. Who said, Gary, thanks so much for having Sam on the show. I'm delighted to say that I will now be getting an EV. My other half has decided that this sounds like it might actually work.
Oh, fantastic.
Really good. All I would say is, before you do a spreadsheet and just work out the cost based on the cost of the EV and the cost per mile. Because it is, I would say my experience has been, I almost bought one myself, but I was scuppered by the cost per mile, which was caused by the initial purchase price of the EV. So
yeah.
Do you math.
Yeah, and I guess that's where things like Sam's car contract hire side of things is coming in as well. More and more people are doing that rather than actually buying outright, because
exactly,
price per mile becomes a much more interesting equation when you start doing that. Definitely I agree, because the price of EVs at the moment is too much. But then again, the price of normal cars is going up as well. I mean, this component, we've been talking about the shortage of Xboxes, the shortage of PlayStations, but this component shortage we've got worldwide at the moment is actually causing real issues for everything and anything. And car manufacturers have been hit probably more so than anybody. And I'm hearing rumours of £10,000 to £15,000 price increases on vehicles, because of the fact that they just cannot get the components. So it becomes supply and demand. They're going to cut them the supply because they can't get the components, so they need to push the price up to make enough money to keep themselves in business.
I can guarantee you that my 30-year-old Golf does not require any complex components at all.
Yeah.
There's no.
That's the thing. I mean, a lot of these modern cars are drive-by-wire and need the components, and they're not going to work without them. So, and particularly electric vehicles are definitely going to be like that. Although electric vehicles are,
I mean, the shortages. I mean, it is an issue, the chip shortage. But I understand it should be easing up by next year. So we've probably only got about a year or so to wait until those production lines come back online again. It's kind of like turning a super tank. It takes a while to, after initial cancellations or whatever else for 2020, which is an awful year, it just takes a while to get these things going again. But I think it'll pick up.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have probably a year of pain and some real shortage. I mean, I'm hearing back orders even on sort of commonly bought cheaper vehicles are becoming very short supply. So if you've got one on order now and you've paid your money, you're probably doing quite well.
Glad I got January.
Yeah.
I'm actually driving it now, which is even better. spent the first 4 months outside my house.
Well, I've actually been able to drive a bit, but I actually had to go driving for work the other day. I can't remember the last time I did that. I know. And I did a 450 mile round trip in my car. And I stopped about twice on that trip, and I didn't pay any money for my trip because all the charges were on free vend, so it was really good.
I did a 540 mile round trip a couple of weeks ago when lockdown lifted first of all, and I didn't stop once because I was quite nervous about getting out of my car. I thought, okay, service station here. And I want to keep on going because, it was weird actually. Obviously we try to avoid mentioning the pandemic. I did worry about getting out of the car and going into the place to have a sandwich. I thought, do I want to take the risk? Keep on driving.
I mean, that's a very valid point actually on touch surfaces, because obviously petrol pumps are very high touch areas as are EV chargers. So I mean, I know the EV companies have been really good on that. They get them wiped down quite regularly, and they have instructions of people to go out and do them in the service. And I've seen service people go around and clean them off, but you never know who's touched them just before you. So.
Yes, the trick is keep washing your hands.
Yes, indeed.
I have the gel in my car.
Although the science now is saying that touch are probably unlikely to be the transfer point, but there we go.
Absolutely right. Yes, it's one of those things. I didn't want to stray too far into that particular thing, but yes, it's It's one of those things that one's been left a bit fearful of everything after last year, which is quite rational. So that's why I'm looking forward to getting back into the museums. Yes,
excellent.
Yeah, and we've now had our system upgrade anyway now. So I've had the first part of my system upgrade. I've got another one next in a few weeks' time, and then fully upgraded to the COVID resistant version. The 21H1 update for me.
Hopefully a bit more major than that.
Yeah, I suppose it is actually. It's not a full wipe and build though, but well, hopefully not anyway.
I mean, mine made my PC quite poorly for an hour and a half, so maybe.
Yeah. I was just a mere reboot, and that was fine. Well, okay, so I think that's just about everything we've got time for this week, and we'll stop now before Richard gets even more excited about going out to computer museums.
Retro computers are fantastic. Retro is.
I don't know if you can wait to whatever we are.
Really can't.
10 weeks, 5, 6 weeks or whatever it is. Yeah.
Wait. Too excited.
We'll be there. So that will be a good day when we get to meet up again in person. So yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I must say, I'm almost as excited as Richard. Only almost.
Almost. So Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard_Speed, soon to be rammed full of retro hardware pictures.
Fantastic. And Gary, where can we find you?
At fascinatingtech.com, and also on Twitter at Gary2RsWMA.
Excellent. And I'm at Alex Dixon on Twitter, and later this week, probably with pictures of Roland TR 808 being restored. Maybe the weekend I'll have a look at that.
Will we have a performance next week?
Ooh, that's a good idea. We could do a live show performance. That'd be good.
So I have got a new track that I've been working on. That started out, I'm going to do a quick track with just a couple of things on, and I always end up putting a few more things on, and I've got a full choir on it now. So
I think it's fun. Some way to end next week's show was the EastEnders. Do that.
It won't do that. I'll give you a demo of what it will do next week, but yeah. Maybe we'll have a course in vintage Roland drum machines, because the one I'm getting is worth, I don't know, when it's restored, maybe a couple £100, but some of them are worth like $3 or $4 grand for some of the 808 909s. But maybe a lesson on that another week. Right, well, that'll do for this week.
I forgot one thing. We spoke Switchbot, didn't we, a few weeks back? The Switchbot curtain automators, and one of the things which I flagged up, and also in the article I flagged up for Fascinating Tech, is that they didn't fit a lot of UK curtains. The U-rail was the wrong size for most UK curtains. Switchbot have come back to me, and they are now going to put a new kit in with all the Switchbot curtains we sold over here, which will actually which has millions of adapters, and I couldn't find a single curtain which it wouldn't fit. You go out.
Oh, brilliant.
So the power of Gary.
Well, no, the power of Ian. I think it was his review as well.
And still running the same set of batteries in my greenhouse.
Yes, brilliant stuff.
August.
Full,
still on full. It's brilliant.
They are amazing. I just cannot get over how high the batteries are on the curtains as well. I mean, they're just incredible for the amount of work they get used. So yeah, good stuff anyway. But I forgot to mention that.
All right, brilliant. Well, we'll see you next week.
Take care.